Brilliant. Well, thanks for coming on, Ryan. Good to see you again. So we'll kick things off going back to the start of your football career, really. So was it Chester the first club you got involved with?
Yeah, so it's been a bit of a mad journey, to be honest with you. I mean, I started at Chester as a kid. Again, I look back now and you see the game in a different light once you're 29, sort of thing. I look back when I was a kid and I see at that stage it had probably been beneficial to have been at a club like a Liverpool or Everton or Manchester United, because I think if you start at a club like that, you can always fall down, where it's a little bit harder to push against the tide and win. But at that stage, you're looking at like 2007, 2008, teams back then were predominantly just wanting big, massive kids, just big, athletic, strong kids, and you weren't really looking for footballers at times. That probably went away against me, so I ended up at Chester. It's funny now because when I've got a few friends who are now coaching at, like Liverpool's and Everton's, and all they want now is kids who are technically good, can handle the ball, and one-on-one pressure and that sort of stuff. There's definitely been a shift in the game. So maybe I was just around at the wrong time at that age. But as I happened to start off at Chester, in and around the first team at 17, and then I actually got injured around the Christmas time. I think we played Crew. I don't know if it was a reserve game or something, but I done my ankle, just rolled my ankle and was out for a few months. And from the end of the season, the club basically was on the verge of folding, because obviously everything that was going on around the club, they had to restart again as like a Phoenix club, a few leagues down, and I think they're back up in the Conference North now. But that was the situation back then. So I found myself at 18, sort of leaving at the time it was a Puma Youth Alliance team. So 18, 2009. Yeah, so there wasn't really much on the horizon. You don't know too many people in the game. You don't know any agents, no contacts. So I just dropped into playing non-league, and it was always my goal to get back to playing professional football. As it happened, the first year, looking back at 18, I was probably still a kid, and I found that transition to men's football slightly different, especially being a different style, because I was used to sort of a certain level training day in day out with the League Two lads, and then at the time it was a Unibond league, and it's funny because Jamie Vardy was actually playing in the same league that season. He was at Lancaster. They had a good team that year. I think they actually won promotion, and if I remember rightly, it was us. I was at Colwyn Bay. It was us and Lancaster that got promoted, and we both went up to the Evo Stick Prem the Unibond Prem at the time for the next season, which would have been season 2010, 2011.
But I might have been at that game. Was it like a playoff match at Lancaster? And I think Colwyn Bay got a penalty, and it was that wet and boggy. They couldn't find the penalty spot or something. Was that game randomly? Yeah?
I'm going off on a tangent here. I think it was us and Lancaster who may have got promoted that year. And so, that was a playoff game, and I think Halifax, who Jamie Vardy was at, went straight up.
Yeah,
That was it, because I think we used to play was there a ground called Lachey or something like that? But so there was a lot of good lads playing in the non-league at that time. I think Andre Gray was playing in there. He obviously ended up in the Premier League with Watford. Scott Hogan was floating around as well. They were two lads that were at Brentford when I was there as well. So there's a lot of quality. I mean, I'm sure there still is a lot of quality in non-league. Just sometimes gets a little bit overlooked. But anyway, so the next year I ended up actually going on loan. I was 19, and hand on heart, I didn't really set the world alight at Colwyn Bay. That first year, I think I was a bit disillusioned with the game, to be honest. I was seeing lads who were playing League One, League Two, who had sort of, I'd say, got the better of them in the under-18s, and then I was probably just licking my wounds, feeling sorry for myself. But it was around summer 2010, and then I went on holiday with the lads, come back, and then I was like, right, I need to make a decision now. I'm either going to go for this in terms of football and really, really not necessarily get me act together, but sort of, nail something down this season, or I'm just going to go to university. So I remember at the time looking at some colleges in America, and then I ended up going on loan to Llandudno, and things really clicked for me there. I scored 7 and 14 from midfield, and I think nothing really changed in terms of my ability in football. I feel I just probably grew as a person. That's probably the best way to describe it. From there, I remember we were playing Rill were they were a bit of a powerhouse at the time in Welsh football. It was always M&TNS that had historically in the previous 10 years been in and around Europe. And I think we ended up beating them 2-1 one game. I got beat 2-1 against me, 1-2-1. I scored both games. So the manager there was a fella called Greg Strong, and he ended up getting in touch for the next season. That summer I had interest from Cyprus, but I just had a really good feeling about playing for Strong. He really wanted me. I was only still just 20, put a lot of responsibility and faith into me. So I signed for him, and I think things went really well for him. I think he scored 6 in my first 8 games, just playing as like a box-to-box number 8, and ended the season with about 16 goals in 35 games. And from there, it got me the opportunity at Morecambe. Finally, I was 21, back in the league. But actually, that wasn't without its hiccups. Like, I mean, I went to sign for I went in on trial with Morecambe, done well. Went to sign, but it was past the transfer window, and because I was coming from the Welsh Federation to the English Federation,
like an international transfer.
Yeah, which is normally fine, but because I wasn't a professional footballer the year before, I was semi-pro. You can't do it, so I had to wait until January to sign, and then eventually signed to come on. Made my Football League debut away at Plymouth, and I think I scored the 25-yarder about 10 minutes after coming on. So that was quite nice. I actually remember I was warming up. There was a fella on the bench for them. Reese, something, I can't remember his name, but he was a striker in the previous year for the team in the Welsh League. And I think he'd always been like the top scorer in the Welsh League for years. If I remember, he was a fireman, but he'd always been turned down in the Football League, but he just wanted to play in the Football League for the year. So he said to me on the sideline, said, we were doing the team analysis before the game, and the manager didn't have a clue who he was because he'd never heard of you. So he asked if anyone knew who he was, and I said, yeah, because I scored a hat-trick against his team in the Welsh FA Cup before. He said, oh, he's got a decent shot in that. So it was nice to, when I come on, to obviously score after 10 minutes, and it settles the nerves, obviously. You've sort of been wanting to play in the Football League for so long, you finally get that opportunity. And so it was nice.
How did the interest from Morecambe? It's not often that Football League teams like pick anything from Wales. Like, you get a few from maybe Ireland more so these days. But did you have a few scouts at your games, or?
Well, at the time, if some were coming, I think we had 2 young lads in midfield at real, me and a lad called Paul Mooney. Paul Mooney got interest from Swindon. I had a little bit of interest from Crewe, I think, at the time. A little bit of interest from Ross County in Scotland, and then up at Morecambe was Kenny McKenna and Jim Bentley. Now, they're both local lads. They obviously know everyone in the area who plays football. I think they'd heard a little bit about me, so they said, listen, get him up for pre-season, and give him the due, they were great. I mean, as soon as I could sign, Jim gave me the number 10 shirt, which is a huge sign of faith from himself. So that was nice, especially for a lad who was just 21 and hadn't kicked the ball in the Football League. It started off really well. I mean, like I said, I scored against Plymouth, and I come on again 2 weeks later against Dagenham when we were 1-0 down. I ended up scoring again, and we won 2-1. And I got my first start against York a week later. After that, we won 4-0. So it was nice. And they gave me a new contract, because I only signed to the end of the season, and they gave me a new contract then until the end of the season. Sorry, until the end of the season after. But this was around the February and the September. We obviously, or the August, start of the next season, we ended up playing like Wolves, and I think I scored the free kick there. And it was Newcastle after that. We got beat 2-0, but in the papers I was getting like man of the match and things. So they gave me a new deal then. So it was like, they showed great faith in me, and I think I'd signed basically 3 contracts in the space of about 7 months. So that was nice. I had a really good relationship as well with not only Jim and Kenny, but the fans and everyone around the club. It was very much a community club in that sense, so it was a good introduction for me into the world of football. And then from there, I ended up getting the move to Brentford, which was good in one respect, but it was probably the right club at the wrong time. The club's gone from nothing but strength to strength, but that was just a bit of a blip year for the club. Like we had 3 managers in the space of like 6 months when I was there, and I basically left about a month after Dean Smith come. You could see straight away his training sessions were, we were top quality, we were fantastic. He knew he was going to take the club to new highs, which he obviously inevitably did, and then ended up at Aston Villa himself. So you could see straight away he was going to be a top manager. Him and his assistant, Richard O'Kelly, they're both very good people as well. But I was at the point where I hadn't kicked the ball in 6 months, you know what I mean? So I was like, I've got to leave here. So I went to Scotland with Inverness. had an enjoyable three months or so there. And then we were sort of in negotiations for me to stay for the season after, but the money that was being offered wasn't right, for me, and that was fine. And obviously, you could sort of see their budget being cut. Yogi, the manager, had left, so you knew at this point I was 24. You can understand what's going on at clubs at this point. You've seen it all before, so I was like, And obviously they ended up getting relegated the year after. I think the budget got massively cut, but that was a summer where my adventures abroad started to come into play. Paul Dalglish called me from Ottawa, and
did you already know him? Did you already have a?
I didn't have a previous relationship with Paul. No, I knew who he was because I actually had it when I was a kid. I was about 7 or 8. I used to collect like these football packs called Football Magic or something, and one of the ones I had was like a little thing of Paul when he in his Newcastle kit. And so I obviously knew who he was, but then we ended up having a bit of a FaceTime, and he was explaining to me his vision at Ottawa and the way he wanted to play. He said, he'd rung a few people in England about me, and he'd had really good reports on me. So would I be interested in going over? And I had a couple of mates over there who were playing for him at the time, and they only said good things about him. So it was a case of like, right, let's go. And literally that was on the Tuesday, because I was actually at Vauxhall Motors watching my mate play when Paul called me, and then by the next Monday I was in Canada. That's how quick it happened. So yeah,
you have no qualms at all about going to the side of the world. Just go for it. Yeah.
You know what? I think, to tell you the truth, I was probably at a stage in my life where, because of the previous 12 months, I'd sort of gone from the highs of signing for Brentford to then things not working out to experiencing the sort of the time in Scotland was enjoyable, but he already had a settled team, so he wasn't really given too much in the way of opportunities. So I had a bit of a weird 12 months where I was probably a little bit disillusioned with things, to tell you the truth. So I was just like, you know what, I'm open to trying it. Like,
yeah.
The truth be told, it was probably the best decision I've ever made, in the sense that I grew so much as a person in the first 12 to 18 months of, a new country, meeting new people. You have your own space to really grow into who you are as a person.
Independent, yeah.
Absolutely. And it's one thing moving to London or moving to Inverness, but moving to a completely new country. And then not only that, we were flying to games. So my first game for Ottawa was in Jacksonville in Florida. You're going to Minnesota, you're going to Miami, you're going all, Oklahoma, you're going all over the place. So you're experiencing different places. And, anyone who's been to America will tell you, like, Oklahoma is a completely different place to Minnesota, which is a completely different place to Florida, to New York. It's so vast, so different. So that was really good to me. And it was also good to experience like a dressing room with different sorts of cultures in there. So I've predominantly been in England where, you had English or Scottish, Irish lads. Obviously at Brentford, we had a couple of Danish lads and stuff like that as well, a few Spanish. But going to America, in the team, you had your Brazilians, Argentinians, Africans, Canadians, Americans, English lads, Irish lads. There was such a mix in there. So that was really good. And the football was a different style of football. It was actually, I found it more tactical than, a lot more tactical than, like League One, League Two football. So that was a really good experience for me. And then off the back of that, things went really well for me. So I ended up getting interest when my contract finished at the end of 2017. I obviously haven't played with the Brazilian lads. They had Brazilian agents who'd watched the game, and I think one of them just took a fancy to me, and he got in touch and said, "Listen, if I could get a team for you in Brazil, would you be interested?" And at this point, I was comfortable with travelling. With that 18 months of being there and really growing into myself. I said, "Yeah, no problem." Didn't hesitate, and so I went over there, and it was again, this was not necessarily naivety, but a little bit of understanding of. A lack of understanding, I should say, of how culture plays it's a completely different culture again. So I'd signed there, and the fans were great. The standard of football was very good style of football. In Brazil, you can find a world-class player hiding under a rock in the middle of the street. You know what I mean? They're everywhere. When I was meant to be involved for my first game on the Friday, I got pulled in and said, "Listen, Ryan, there's been a mistake. We didn't realise you need a visa to be able to actually legally play in this country. So you can't get these visas in the country. You have to be out of the country to get them, and then you enter the country. So they had to put me on a plane to Argentina. I went to a place called Foz de Iguazu, which was quite cool because you got to see these big, waterfalls, which I don't know if like one of the wonders of the world or something.
Yeah.
But it's a bit of a famous site. Went there. I was there for 3 days. Got my visa. Went back. Flew back to Belém, which took me 2 flights. First thing I had to fly to Sao Paulo, then Sao Paulo back to Belém, which is up north near the Amazon. And then literally, I think there was 48 hours before the window shut. So we went to like and this has nothing to do with the football system, but the Brazilian like registry thing.
Yeah.
The council officers, we went there. Their whole system was down nationally until the Monday, so we missed the deadline. So I couldn't. So basically, I was just training for 3 months until I could play.
Really?
Finally registered me in April, and I registered. Made my debut, done well. Then I didn't play. I wasn't involved in the next 2 games. I was on the bench, but didn't play. And I was just like, at this point again, it was probably disillusionment in the sense that I've been there for 6 months. I played about 20 minutes of football. Through no fault of my own, and I wouldn't necessarily say the clubs that never signed a European player before.
I was going to say, was there anyone else that were you just like surrounded by Brazilians? What was it like to, did you feel a bit isolated in that sense, or?
You know what? Honestly, Brazilian people are amazing. Like so friendly, and there's only 2 or 3 lads who could speak English, but I think by doing that, you start to immerse yourself in the language and you start to pick things a little bit quicker. Within about 5 months, I mean, I wasn't fluent in Portuguese by any stretch of the imagination, but I could have small conversations and I could understand what was being said around me and stuff like that. So, the lads there were class. Like they were always having barbecues and stuff like that. So I'd always go, be around at one of the lads' houses. And I still keep in touch with quite a few of the lads to this day. So that was a great experience. Obviously, my next trip abroad from there was going to Harvard Athletic in 2019, back in the USL. I think because of how the experience I've been in Brazil, as much as I love the football, I just wanted somewhere where I could go and sort of touch down for a year, and ended up signing for a fellow called Jimmy Nielsen, who was fantastic. I can't praise Jimmy enough. What a great man, what a great manager. Him and his assistant Chris Spenlove, both fantastic people. That year we because it was a new team for the league, we actually started with I think it was 9 or 11 away games. So you straight away you play 9 road games, which in England isn't an issue, but in America, if you're playing on a Saturday, you're flying back Sunday, you're having an off day, like you'll be off on the Monday, and you train Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You'd be flying again Friday, playing. So you constantly, you weren't settled for 9 weeks. It was that was interesting. So we had a really tough start to the season that year, but then halfway through the season, things seemed to really click for the team, and we started to put better performances in, and we had stronger performances, and picking up a few wins here and there, and I felt like we were really starting to build something. As seems to be the situation with football over the last couple of years. At the end of the year, the budget got cut, so the manager Jimmy left along with his assistant Spenny, and I think they had 2 years left on the deal as well. But they decided, it was in their best interest to leave. So at that point, I built up a really good relationship with them, and I felt I owed them a debt of loyalty. So I've obviously ended up moving on myself, and because of the season I had, especially the second half of the 2019 season, I knew I'd have opportunities. I mean, towards the end of the 2020 season, about 6 weeks to go left of the season, I think Oklahoma, they tried to trade for me, but it just wasn't the right time for me to move, with six games of the season left. And, it was a shame that, because Oklahoma was a fantastic organisation. I know a few of the people involved there, in the front office side of things, and they're really good people. They would have been a good organisation to play for. It was just that the time wasn't right for me. So then, again, 2020 rolls around and football's up in the air. I was like, oh my God. I literally went about 9 months without the team. I was like, what's going on? But it can be quite stressful. And I know a lot of players are, in a situation where they've been probably worrying about paying the bills and stuff, because let's face it, this level of football, you're not a millionaire or nothing like that.
Yeah.
I've been fortunate in that I've got me, obviously maybe financial planning qualifications and stuff now. So I was doing a bit of work in that industry as well. And I was playing regular five-a-side as well. So a mutual friend of mine put me in touch with Stephen Ireland, the lad who's played for Man City.
Yeah.
So he invited me up to play some five-a-side up in Manchester. So I was going up there once or twice a week, and that was good because you'd have Stephen Ireland would play. Sometimes you had Julian Lescott's been there, Darren Fletcher, Emil Heskey's been up there,
Nice.
Mohamed Diouf, who was at Stoke, So there's a lot of good lads playing. It was always good standing. It, kept you fit, sort of thing. So I really enjoyed that. And then the Sweden opportunity rolled around, and I ended up signing out there and played for a really good manager, Ozcan. Very, very good, very impressive. Really good training sessions, very tactical. And for me, I think that sort of been the journey of my career, and being able to experience coaches from all around the world, different styles of football, different cultures, different dressing rooms. That's one thing that has been is an education. It's been an experience, and I feel like I've learned so much. And I was actually thinking about this the other day. I feel like I've probably grown as a person exponentially in a way that wouldn't have occurred had I just stayed in England and done the lower league circuit and League One and League.
Of course.
Truth be told, I probably would love another season just to experience, League One or League Two again. Just because when I'm watching, it actually looks at very different games to the game I left behind back in 2015 was the last time I played in League Two with Morecambe. So the game's changed a lot, and it does look good. But it's funny, I do view the game very differently now to how I did view it previously. With the experiences I've got now. I mean, back then, I used to look at League Two. I was like, oh, maybe this is because I come from non-league. I thought it was, this fan, I thought it was a great level, really good. And I look at it now, and you can sort of see the limitations in the level, you know what I mean, and stuff like that, because you experience complete different styles of football, I suppose. But one thing I can say is, from my experience playing in like the USL and in America and League Two in England, there's a lot of good players at that level, who could go on to do better things. I mean, you look at it, Ollie Watkins, he's doing brilliant at Aston Villa now. He was playing at Exeter when I was in League Two. You've got lads in there, like I mentioned before, your Scott Hogans and your Andre Grays who've gone on to do great things. And you look at the USL, lads who've been playing in the USL since 2016 who were kicking on. Alphonso Davies is doing great at Bayern Munich. Tyler Adams is doing well. He played in Liverpool in Champions League last week. He was at Red Bulls too in that league. So there is a lot of quality all around the world, and it's given me an insight in the sense that one day should I ever take a role on as like maybe a technical director or something like that at an organisation, a way to sort of I'd want to operate in terms of scouting the market, because like I said, there's a lot of undervalued gems out there, and I think if you can get them early enough and get them into your organisation, not only can it be profitable for the club in terms of the economical side of things, you're looking at like the huge benefit that these lads can bring to a team. The hungry, all they're just waiting for is that opportunity.
Overall, obviously, you've got a pretty unique journey, I think, for any English footballer. What would you say was the highest level in terms of best quality football that maybe took you by surprise, or where you thought, wow, this is top quality, I'm doing well?
It's difficult for me to judge because I've experienced them all at different times in my career, and I've probably been at different levels at these times. I found when I initially went to Brentford, obviously they were a championship team, I found that to be a jump from League Two. Having said that, though, I think it was also more, I was like, wow, because I come from League Two. But then when I was a little bit more mature, I've gone to Brazil. That was a similar level in terms of Serie B, second league. But the level of domestic talent there was frightening. And I always say this is difficult to compare directly because the styles of football are so different. But there was a lot of talent in Brazil, like a lot.
Was it just your typical sort of flair, skilled sort of thing you would expect from Brazilians, or?
Not necessarily, no. I mean, they were all technically very good. So they what I'd describe as press resistant. So you'd have to kind of like. It's funny because in Serie A in Brazil, it's quite open and quite exposed. But in that Serie B, I noticed teams were very much in like blocks and just didn't want to be broke down, because if you were taking the game to the other team and you gave a pass away, they will just cut right through you because they've got speed and they understand the game very well. Like they really do. So yeah, that was the biggest thing for me, was how press resistant they are. You press them and go and get tight and they'll roll you and they'll spin you in the gum. Whereas even in the championship level in England, you press a lot of players properly, under a good organised press from a team, and you can win the ball back. There'll be a lot of turnovers. But that Brazil, like, you start pressing teams and they'll just play through you. So it's a bit safer to get in a defensive block and just make it hard for them to break you down. So that was definitely an education, like a real education. Surprising for me though is especially over the last few years, really grew, is the level of the USL in America. I mean, it's getting better and better every year, and there's a lot of lads I find in that league who could do really well in England, especially because of how athletic they are. Especially League One, League Two in England, there's so many transitions in a game. The speed that these lads have and the athleticism, they're built to run like. So they could really capitalise on that sort of tactical. It's not really about tactics, is it, in League One and League Two? It's just a bit of a dust-up, like, so they could really capitalize on that, yeah. So, I think there's definitely a market there. That was surprising, but in terms of to answer your question, in terms of the best level, I'd say it's definitely in the Championship and Serie B in Brazil, like.
With them going back to the USL Championship in America, obviously there's no promotion and relegation there. The teams at that level, do they get a bit pissed off almost that you're into Miami's and whatever, just start a franchise and go straight in? Like,
yeah, I mean,
are they wanting to go on to that, or are they happy at the level, like with the?
Some of them would love to. I mean, you look at Miami FC, not Inter Miami. Their owner Ricardo Silva's a Brazilian TV guy, worth a fortune. He's been a huge advocate for promotion and relegation, and to be honest, I agree with him. I mean, from my time in America, I played Minnesota, I scored twice against them, but then the season after, some of their lads are playing in the MLS just because their team bought a franchise in there. We played Nashville in the USL. They ended up in the MLS for last season. So teams, for the franchise in the MLS, you're looking at 200 million. It's not cheap. For me, I think if the problem you've got in America, now for me, if they had promotion and relegation, they would be one of the top 5 leagues in the world within 10 years, because if you have promotion and relegation, you probably have to get rid of the salary caps and stuff. So teams could have whatever budget they want to be trying to win, ultimately trying to win at any cost. So that would drive the prices of salaries through the roof, which would then attract, obviously, even more better players than they've already got access to. Now, the problem you've got with that is a lot of these franchises have bought their way into the league. So you just played 200 million to get into the league and then you got relegated down a division. There'd have to be some sort of plan put in place to recompensate. But if there was promotion and relegation between USL and MLS, you'd see a lot more lads move from the USL to the top league. Like in England, you get a lot of lads who do well in the Champ, they'll go into the Prem. It doesn't work quite like that in America. It's like, it seems it's a bit more of a closed-off system, and once you've been categorised as a USL player, you don't necessarily get that opportunity in the MLS. So it's like, I've come across, there are plenty of lads in the USL who are better than players in the MLS. Obviously, the top half of an MLS roster will be stacked with talent, but the bottom half of that MLS roster, some of the lads will go on loan to USL affiliates, and they don't stand out at all in the USL. Really? But then I'll come across some lads and I'll be like, how have you not had an opportunity in the MLS? I mean, I'm just going from speaking against players I played against in midfield. I look at players like Wild Fall, very good player, a German lad, midfielder. He just signed for Oakland Roots, a new team in the USL. He's consistently made the playoff every year in the USL, but he's never had an opportunity in the MLS. Miami FC, they've just signed a lad from Louisville, Speedy Williams. I think he's a Jamaican lad, another centre midfielder. I think he's won the league 2 or 3 times, been captain of the team. He's 27, 28. He had a little spell at Red Bulls too as a kid, but then he's obviously grown and developed as a player, and he's not had another opportunity in the MLS, which he should have. I mean, in England, if you don't make the cut at Liverpool, but then you drop down the champ, prove your worth, you go back up to the Prem.
Yeah.
It's not quite the case in America. But for example, I'll take him for an example. If he'd have won the USL like he did twice with Louisville, and then he got promoted to the MLS, he'd have then started his MLS journey, and he'd probably spend the next 10 years in the MLS.
Yeah.
But he's having another season now in the USL with Miami FC. And it's a good level, but as players, you naturally your target's always to progress up the leagues, but it doesn't seem to be the case in the USL to MLS. Obviously, you'll get like a lot of statistics coming out. Oh, so many players will move from here and there, but really, it's a large portion of that will be lads moving from USL, like set 2 teams to the first team. So be a lad moving from Red Bull 2 to New York Red Bulls.
Yes, they're already pretty much.
Exactly. DC United second team is Loudon United. So the young lads just moving up. You know what I mean?
It's a complicated system in the MLS, isn't it? Like with all the, like you said, there's salary caps and there's a certain amount of players that you can have and whatever, and from different backgrounds or whatever.
Players, I think, or players who are classed as under the foreign quotas, so they don't have a green card. You've got DPs, you can have 3 of them, designated players, TAM players, targeted allocation money. I think this year they're introducing something new for like young players under the age of 22, where they purchase them from abroad or something like that. I don't know the full inner workings of it, but I just read about it the other day. So it's an ever changing sort of model over there. You know, I think they're trying to become more of a selling league now, so they're going to want more younger players, because obviously historically they did have a reputation as a retirement league. That's no longer the case now. You know, you can see that with players like Alphonso Davies coming through the league, but it's if I had one wish for American soccer, it would be that they eventually do have that promotion and relegation, because it would open up so much opportunity, not only to the players to progress, but it will also open a window to a huge influx of more top talent. I mean, I know a lot of lads in that USL, very good players, but they've given up on even playing in the MLS. They know it's just not going to happen, no matter how good they play. You know.
Do they then look to try and just get out of America, so to speak? Are they happy at that level? Obviously, there's a bit of a barrier for them, so they'd look going elsewhere in the continent, or.
And that's the thing. So some of the lads may go from, you might get a move from the USL, go to a Sweden, go to a Denmark. If they can get an English, if they've got English in the passport, might go to England, whatever. But then if they were to go to, like, let's say they went to the Allsvenskan in Sweden, and the top league in Sweden, and done really well, the MLS would then take them.
Yeah.
The MLS would then take them, but it's the same player, just 12 months before he was playing the USL, so he's not on the radar as much. I don't know if it's MLS teams are more image conscious, or they're scared of making a mistake, or they categorise players with certain things, but it's just not the movement between the leagues is not as fluid. I mean, it was nice this year to see Tyler Pasha go from Indy 11 to Houston, I think it was. He's a striker, he scored a lot of goals and definitely deserves his opportunity, but looking back, he probably should have had that opportunity 2 years ago. Do you know what I mean?